What is this supposed to mean? I was at a loss for words as I stared at the nameplate. Today was my precious sister's wedding day. The nameplate placed in front of me had the unbelievable words "Middle School Graduate Dummy" engraved on it. We're simply giving an honest evaluation. Something inside me was about to snap. At that moment, Emily spoke softly. "Shall we crush them?" I heard her words and slowly nodded. "Yeah. My name is John Smith. I turned 35 this year. Sometimes I'm surprised when I think about my age. Has it really been that long? Looking back over my 35 years, there's been a lot that's happened. There were good times, of course, but also bad ones. But what I remember most vividly is when I was 16. I still clearly recall that day when our world changed in an instant. I was studying with some friends at the local library. When I got home a little after 4 p.m., the house was eerily quiet. The moment I opened the front door, the usual warmth was gone, and the house was shrouded in silence and darkness. I expected my parents to greet me with their usual hi, but that day was different. As the unease grew, I realized there were no calls from Dad either. Normally, if something were wrong, he'd call immediately. But this time, nothing. My little sister, Kate, had just returned from her team activities, and we waited together for our parents to come home. Then, the news on TV caught our attention. The screen showed footage from an accident site, and the camera zoomed in on the scene. That day, our parents had been involved in a collision with a large truck on the highway. At the hospital, I was met with the painful sight of my injured parents. They were hospitalized and fought hard, continuing their treatment. However, their lives didn't last much longer. Even as I faced the reality of their absence, I still couldn't grasp it. The overwhelming feeling of disbelief was all I could focus on. Afterward, the truck driver, who miraculously survived, continued to deny his fault. We barely received any compensation and were forced into a life of hardship. In that moment, my world changed completely. With my family gone, there was only one thing left for me to protect. It was my sister, Kate. Kate was 6 years younger than me. She had just started 4th grade. After our parents passed away, I suddenly found myself supporting the household and doing all the chores. I was still a 16-year-old kid myself, but I knew I couldn't be a kid anymore. I felt crushed under the weight of responsibility, knowing I had to ensure Kate didn't live a life of hardship. I dropped out of high school and immediately started working. There was no money for school, and above all, I had to support my sister, so I had no choice but to work. I started working at a mid-sized electronics company called Martin Electronics. Martin Electronics was a local company that specialized in design and manufacturing. The work was tough, but I had no choice, so I had to keep us going. I had no time to even think about running away. From that day on, I entered a life where weekends didn't exist. Even so, deep inside, I couldn't help but wonder, why am I the one who has to do all this? Do I have to give up on my own life? Even so, as long as Kate was there, I didn't give up. One day, when she came home from school, she looked a bit down. Kate was in her basketball team at school and absolutely loved basketball. But since our parents passed away, she must have been carrying something heavy inside her as well. When she was about to enter middle school, she had been determined to join the basketball team. "John, I've decided not to join the basketball team." I was surprised when I saw the look on Kate's face as she said that. I knew how much she loved basketball. No matter how tough things got, she always smiled when she was playing basketball. "Why?" I asked, swallowing my words. "Because, seeing you work so hard, I can't help but think, what's the point of me continuing basketball if there's no future for us?" When she said that, I wanted to scream inside. Why was she blaming herself so much? I would never allow her to give up on her dream. That's what I thought. "Kate, don't even think about quitting playing basketball. You still have a future ahead of you. I'll figure it out, so you keep playing. Chase your dream." Luckily, basketball doesn't cost as much as sports like baseball, just the ball and a uniform. I can handle that. So don't worry about anything and keep going. Kate nodded silently, her eyes filled with tears. Thank you, John. I worked tirelessly to support her. I couldn't let her quit playing basketball, and at the very least, I wanted to make sure she finished middle and high school. That was my one and only mission. But when Kate was in her third year of middle school, her heart wavered again. I was determined to get her through high school, but one day, she said something shocking. John, I think I want to start working. I don't even like studying, and going to school just feels pointless. Her words stunned me. Kate had always been a bright student. She balanced both academics and basketball perfectly, but now, she was struggling with the reality in front of her. You've always been so good at playing basketball and studying. There are so many possibilities ahead of you. You don't have to rush into working now. I desperately tried to convince her. I knew that if she didn't stay in school, her future would close off. But, if I don't work, how are we going to make ends meet? Her big eyes filled with tears. Even then, I kept encouraging her. That's exactly why I want you to study hard and see more of the world. Are you sure it's okay? Of course. You can do it, no doubt. After that, Kate decided to go to high school. I felt a wave of relief and continued to support her. As time passed, Kate successfully graduated high school and went on to college with the help of a scholarship. She majored in law, worked tirelessly towards her goal, and eventually passed the bar exam. When I got the news of her success, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Back then, all I could do was support her, but now she was confidently forging her own path. John, I got a job. I'm officially a lawyer. When I heard those words over the phone, I was speechless. The pride I felt for my one and only sister was indescribable. The little girl Kate used to be is now 29 years old. Just the other day, she told me something exciting. I've met someone really special. The special person Kate had met was Kyle Turner. Kyle was a client at the law firm where Kate worked and the son of Miles Turner, a high-ranking government official. Kate started talking excitedly about meeting Kyle. He's really an amazing person. He's serious about his work, but he's also incredibly kind. He listens to me and always encourages me. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, and I could see the trust she had in him from her expression. In that moment, a small wave of concern crossed my mind. Was Kyle really the right person for Kate? Would he truly cherish her? I couldn't help but worry. However, Kate had no doubt in her voice. She seemed fully confident in her decision. John, I've decided. I'm going to marry Kyle. I was momentarily surprised when I heard that. But Kate's resolve was firm. Her eyes were filled with determination, and I could tell she was genuinely happy. If you're truly happy, I won't say anything. Just make sure he knows to take good care of you. Kate smiled brightly at my words. As the wedding plans moved forward, it became clear that Kate was falling more and more in love with Kyle. The two of them occasionally shared stories about their relationship with me. Kyle was a highly respected bureaucrat, known for his charisma and kind heart. And he often spoke about wanting to contribute to society together with Kate. Still, deep down, I often wondered how our parents would have reacted if they were still alive. If it weren't for that accident, maybe they'd be here to share in this happiness. The thought of that tightened my chest. About 6 months before the wedding, I was supposed to meet Kyle's parents for the first time as Kate's family member. Kate and Kyle were escorted by the staff for a meeting at the wedding venue. During that time, I was left to meet with his parents. In a corner of the hotel lounge, his father Miles and mother Megan were already seated. They came from a distinguished family of high-ranking officials. Feeling a bit nervous, I walked over to them. "Welcome, John." Miles greeted me calmly. However, his expression remained composed, with a sense of distance in it. He was in his early 50s, tall, and had a handsome, distinguished appearance. Dressed in a crisp and elegant suit, he exuded an air of refinement. Seated next to him was Megan. Though past her 50s, she still carried a graceful, sophisticated presence. But there was a cold gleam in her eyes that I couldn't ignore. "Thank you for having me." I bowed slightly and took my seat. For a brief moment, there was silence. Though we exchanged polite greetings, the tension in the air was palpable. After a while, Megan spoke quietly. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, John." She smiled, but I sensed something probing behind that smile. "Thank you," I replied politely, though a hint of unease crept into my heart. Miles then spoke up. "Since this is our first time meeting, we'd like to ask you a few things." He looked directly at me as he continued. "Kyle is the pride of our family. He's an exceptional bureaucrat and is striving for an even higher position in the future. Now that Kate has decided to marry him, we're very pleased as well." I felt a small sense of relief at his words. But then, his gaze sharpened as it focused back on me, and he continued. "John, there's something I'd like to ask you first." His piercing eyes locked onto mine. "May I ask about your background?" I took a small breath. "My background?" "Yes, after all, being the brother of such a brilliant lawyer like Kate, I'm sure you have an impressive background as well, don't you?" "Exactly. We'd love to hear what you've done and what achievements you've made." Miles continued with a tone of genuine interest. Choosing my words carefully, I began to speak calmly. "I lost my parents when I was 16. After that, I started working right away to support the household. I dropped out of high school, but I'd been working ever since to protect my family." Miles's expression stiffened for a brief moment. "So, you're saying you only graduated from middle school?" Megan asked coldly. "That's right," I answered quietly. The moment I responded, Megan's expression changed, and she spoke with a firm tone. "A middle school graduate." Her voice dripped with disdain. "With such a background, you have no right to associate with people from our family." Miles nodded silently in agreement. "I'm really concerned this could affect Kyle and Kate's future." I felt a surge of anger rising inside me, but I tried to remain calm. "But I've always been there to protect my sister." "Are you sure you don't mean Kate has protected you?" "What?" Megan sneered as she spoke. "Protect her? You? A middle school graduate?" After a brief silence, I replied firmly. "Of course, Kate earned her accomplishments on her own. But I chose to drop out of high school to help her. No matter what anyone says, I don't regret that decision." Megan couldn't hide her irritation at my response. She exhaled deeply, her cold eyes fixed on me. "If you intend to keep seeing Kyle and Kate," her voice grew lower and colder, "we won't allow you near her." I was speechless. Her words froze the room. There was a clear intention of rejection behind her statement. I felt my anger boiling inside but maintained my composure as I answered. "That won't be possible. Kate is my family. Ever since our parents died, we've supported each other to get through life. So, I see no reason why I shouldn't continue to see her." "Family? Is that what you're calling it?" Megan sneered again. "I don't care how hard you've worked for your sister. That doesn't mean we have to accept it." Miles spoke up as well. "Calm down, Megan. John, it's not that we distrust you. We just want Kate to have the right environment, suitable for someone in our family." "Are you saying I'm not good enough for Kate?" I raised my voice slightly, but at that moment, Miles stepped forward and spoke in a low voice. "Yes. Your background is a significant problem for us." "My background?" I frowned. "Yes," Miles replied coldly. "In our family, education and social status are important. Someone who lacks those qualities cannot be part of our family. Those words tightened around my chest. The fear that had been lingering inside me for so long had now materialized and stood firmly in front of me. But even then, I had no intention of backing down. Still, I will continue seeing my sister. There's nothing wrong with remaining in her life as her only family. How many times do I have to say it? Don't ever show your face in front of us again. Megan's words were sharp and forceful. At that moment, something snapped inside me. Words were no longer enough. I realized that I could never make them understand why I had been protecting Kate all these years. Miles, who had remained silent, finally spoke. If you insist on continuing to see Kyle and Kate, we'll ask Kate to pursue legal action. You do understand that we have the power to make that happen, don't you? Oomph. There's no way a middle school graduate could understand that. Both Miles and Megan looked at me with cold, disdainful eyes. But my resolve was stronger than their contempt. No matter what obstacles were in my way, I had a past where I had protected Kate and lived with her through everything. Miles spoke again. Prepare yourself to cut all ties with our family. His icy words weighed heavily on me. I will never stop seeing my sister. I said it with determination. There was a moment of silence. I tried to break the uncomfortable tension by speaking, but no words came out. I knew that no matter what I said, I couldn't change their minds. Just then, Kate and Kyle returned from their meeting. Kate, looking a bit tired, smiled softly at me. But the moment she saw my face, her smile faded, and she looked at me with concern. John, are you okay? I nodded slightly and said to Kate, I'm fine. Don't worry. Kate and Kyle sat beside me and exchanged small talk with his parents, but the atmosphere remained tense. Megan continued to ignore me throughout, and Miles barely spoke a word to me. Our first meeting had ended in complete discord. From that day forward, I had a sense that my relationship with Kyle's parents would only become more strained. However, I wouldn't change my stance. I was determined to protect my bond with Kate and face any challenge to ensure her happiness. 6 months passed, and my relationship with the Turner family had almost completely broken down. Neither I nor Kyle's parents had made any contact since that day. I kept in touch with Kate occasionally, talking about the wedding preparations. But I avoided asking too much to keep her out of the conflict with her in-laws. During this time, I told my wife, Emily, about everything that had happened. Emily, for years younger than me, was strong-willed and outspoken. She didn't hide her anger when it came to the insults from Kyle's parents. I can't believe they said that, just to protect their own status. I'll make sure they get what's coming to them someday. Emily would say things like that, but I tried my best to keep things from escalating. The last thing I wanted was for any problems to arise at Kate's big day, her wedding. Finally, the wedding day arrived. The ceremony was held at a luxurious hotel, with hundreds of guests attending. I went to the venue with Emily, and we waited in the dressing room until the ceremony began. Today is your sister's special day, so you're going to keep calm even if those two try something, right? Emily looked at me as she asked. Of course. For Kate's sake, I won't make a big deal out of anything, no matter what happens. I answered, trying to calm myself. But as we were shown to our seats in the venue, something unexpected happened. The nameplate on my seat had the unbelievable words "Middle School Graduate Dummy" engraved on it. What is this supposed to mean? I was speechless as I stared at the nameplate. Emily, too, saw it and her face immediately darkened with anger. Is this some kind of joke? I called over the staff and asked for an explanation, but they only looked confused. I'm terribly sorry, but this nameplate was made at the request of the groom's family. Hearing that, the anger I had been holding back flared up. This was definitely the work of Kyle's parents. Excuse me, but what exactly is the meaning of this? I spoke quietly but firmly, trying to avoid drawing too much attention. At that moment, Miles appeared in front of me. With a cold smile, he shrugged slightly. "Oh, I'm not sure what you mean. We simply gave an honest assessment." His words nearly made me snap. But this was a wedding. I couldn't ruin Kate's special day. Do you understand what that name means? I struggled to stay calm, while Miles maintained his indifferent attitude, laughing dismissively. Of course. But someone with no education or culture like you doesn't really need a proper nameplate, does he? That's going too far. Emily snapped at him, but I held her back. I had to endure this. No matter what we said, causing a scene here would only hurt Kate. I had no choice but to bear it. The wedding ceremony began and proceeded without incident. However, the tense atmosphere lingered. I was scheduled to give a speech as part of the bride's family. I had spent days preparing and memorizing the speech. But as the groom's side finished their speeches, my name was never called. Feeling uneasy, I went to ask the staff. Their response shocked me. We were informed by the groom's family that, due to circumstances, the speech has been cancelled. What? For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what was happening, but I quickly realized the truth. This was yet another scheme by Kyle's parents, designed to humiliate me. They must have cancelled my speech to embarrass me further. I can't take this anymore. I instructed the staff to call Miles and Megan to the lobby. As I waited in the lobby, Kyle's parents slowly appeared. Both of them wore smug, triumphant expressions. I heard my speech was cancelled. Care to explain why? I demanded, and Megan responded with a cold smile. We can't possibly let someone like you, a middle school graduate, give a speech in front of everyone. It would disgrace our family. Her words caused all the anger I had been suppressing to explode. All the insults, the dismissiveness, and the harassment during the wedding, it was too much. There was no reason left to hold back. Just then, Emily appeared behind me and gently tapped my arm. John, what are we going to do? Emily asked calmly, though the anger in her eyes was unmistakable. I took a deep breath and looked straight at Kyle's parents. You clearly have no idea what I've accomplished, I said firmly. Miles snorted in disdain. And what's that supposed to mean? Do you think someone like you could have any impact on us? At that moment, Emily spoke quietly. Shall we crush them, Mr. Smith, the CEO? Hearing her words, I nodded slowly. Yeah, let's crush them. For a brief moment, both Miles and Megan looked shocked, but they quickly regained their sneering expressions. You? A CEO? Come on, no matter what you try, it won't affect us. Go ahead, tell us you're ending some deal or something. Miles scoffed as he spoke. Deals? Well, as it happens, the company manufacturing the digital systems for Miles's government-led digitization project is mine. He was shocked. Their faces immediately changed at my words. What are you saying? Miles frowned. The project that you're so proud of, the digital transformation you're pushing, it's my company that's behind it. And I've just decided to cancel the contract today. At those words, their faces froze completely. No way. You're the CEO of Martin Electronics? But I thought Kelvin Martin was the CEO. That's right. Emily cut him off. Could you explain, as my lead secretary, Emily? Mr. Martin retired last year. And John was appointed as CEO, based on his years of experience and his pivotal role in developing cutting-edge AI-based digital systems. He was highly recommended by the former CEO, Mr. Martin. I believe you boasted about being close to him in the media, but you didn't know about it. Did you? This can't be true. It's a joke, right? Megan said, her face pale. If you think it's a joke, go ahead and check our company's website on your phone. Emily said calmly. Megan pulled out her phone and looked at the website, where my picture and greeting as CEO were displayed. John, you're not serious about canceling the deal, are you? If this project doesn't move forward, we're finished. We're family. So you wouldn't do something that cold, right? I shook my head calmly. No, I'm serious. If you keep disrespecting me, I'll take the necessary steps, and that means canceling the deal. Megan's voice trembled, and she could no longer hide her panic. The project Miles was leading was crucial for the Turner family's reputation. If it collapsed, their social standing would be severely impacted, and I knew that well. Wait. That can't happen. If the project stalls, we'll lose everything. Megan raised her voice in desperation. I'm fully aware of how important this project is for your family. Yet you've refused to acknowledge my role in it and have continued to insult me. You should regret that. I continued, my voice steady but firm. Miles, momentarily speechless, quickly grew agitated and shouted. Don't think you can stop the deal that easily. You know how much power we have. Emily smiled coldly and responded. You'll soon find out how much your power really counts. Besides, maybe we should have rethought everything from the beginning. The days of looking down on people based on their education or status are long over. Both of their faces turned pale in an instant. For the first time, they were being forced to confront the reality that everything they had built could crumble. I watched them calmly and continued. This is Kate's wedding, her special day. I've held my tongue and endured for her sake, but there's a limit to how much I can take. My speech was cancelled, my name was insulted. What more do you plan to do? Miles looked like he was about to retort, but Megan stopped him. She looked at us with fear in her eyes and spoke in a trembling voice. John, isn't that going a bit too far? We admit we might have gone too far with some of the things we said. So, please, can we just forget about this? Don't think an apology is enough to make this right. I dismissed Megan's words coldly. What you've done to me isn't something that can be brushed aside with a simple apology. Besides, it's too late for that. My decision stands. So the deal is over. Wait. John, that's too harsh. Miles raised his voice again, but I wasn't backing down. Just then, Emily took a quiet breath and offered a suggestion. There is one possible way. If you publicly apologize for all the insults we've received, we might reconsider. Publicly. Megan's face showed confusion. Yes. You will have to stand in front of everyone and admit to the insults you've thrown at us and apologize sincerely. If you can do that, we'll think about reopening the deal. There's no way we can do that. Miles erupted angrily. Emily remained calm as she continued. Then, there's nothing more to discuss. Whatever happens next will be a result of your own choices. Miles and Megan couldn't say another word. As we turned to leave, they stood frozen in place, visibly trembling. The wedding proceeded smoothly afterward. I felt bad for Kate, but luckily, she didn't seem to notice any of the tension. At the end of the reception, I gave my heartfelt congratulations to Kate and Kyle, sincerely wishing them happiness. I wanted to believe that my actions, putting Kate's happiness first, had been the right choice. After the wedding, Miles and Megan reached out multiple times to apologize, but we ignored every attempt. We had no intention of reopening negotiations until they genuinely reflected on their behavior and apologized without burdening Kate. Weeks passed, and within us was a quiet determination. Then, a few weeks later, Miles and Megan publicly apologized for the insults they had hurled at us. They held a press conference, admitting their wrongdoing, including the events at the wedding. The media coverage of the apology delivered a devastating blow to the Turner family's reputation. The Turner family's name has really hit rock bottom, hasn't it? Yeah, it sure has. After witnessing their public apology, we finally moved forward with discussions to resume the deal. Though our relationship with Kyle's parents remained cold, they kept their promise and never insulted us again. Well, I guess that settles everything, Emily said with a smile. Yeah, but in the end, they had no choice but to change. If we hadn't stood up to them, they'd still be the same. I exhaled deeply, feeling a small sense of relief. But this was for the best. I'm proud of how strong you've been. As Emily smiled at me, I felt a deep sense of gratitude that she had always been by my side. A few months later, Miles's downfall sent shockwaves through the entire Turner family. With his project collapsing, Miles's credibility crumbled, and his subordinates began abandoning him one by one. Miles and Megan were forced to watch as everything they had built fell apart in an instant, unable to hide their panic and regret. Kyle and Kate also reached a point where they had to reconsider their relationship with the Turner family. Though Kyle had desperately tried to live up to his parents' expectations, he realized that their behavior was causing them both pain. He finally decided to cut ties. Kate, our life is ours. We can't let my parents control us anymore. Kate agreed with his decision, and together they severed ties with the Turner family. Miles and Megan were shocked and opposed their decision, but Kyle's resolve was unshakable. Kyle and Kate decided to build their new life together, leaving the Turner family behind. Kate continued to deepen her career as a lawyer, dedicating herself to family law and supporting children who had lost their parents in accidents. Through her experiences, she shared her thoughts with me. John, I want to help children like us who lost their parents. I want to create an organization that can provide them with a safe place to live. Her words moved me deeply, and I immediately offered my full support. That's a great idea. I'll help out too. Thank you. Kyle said he'd help as well. Can I count on you if we need any advice? Of course. Whether it's funding or anything else, I'll support you however I can. Martin Electronics had experienced significant growth in recent years, thanks to its AI-driven digitalization efforts. It was no longer a small local business but a renowned major company. With my company providing financial support, Kate's organization was sure to get off the ground quickly. Together, Kate and Kyle began working toward establishing the support organization. The organization focused on helping children who had lost their parents due to accidents or family issues, and its efforts gradually expanded. My company became one of its sponsors, and soon, the organization achieved great success. One day, Kate excitedly shared some good news with a smile. John, one of the kids we've been supporting, was successfully adopted by a new family. I was genuinely happy to hear that and felt proud of her growth. You're really amazing. Let's keep working together and keep this going. Through this, Kate and I strengthened our bond as siblings and moved forward together toward a brighter future. By severing ties with the Turner family, we were able to take a new step and build our lives on our own terms.